6:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call vote. All present. Attest to publication.
I saw it posted.
Thank you. Tina, district mission, vision, and values.
Bangor Pride, a small school building big futures, vision, and innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, small class sizes, continuous improvement, professionalism, opportunity for all, safety, fostering community, sustainability.
Thank you, Tina. Public comments? Approval of the minutes. We have a list here. We'll start with January 20th, 2021, open session.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. January 20th, 2021, closed session.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Shelley, seconded by Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. February 2nd, open session.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. February 2nd, closed session.
Make a motion to approve.
Shelley? Who was second?
That one was already.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Shelley to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. February 8th, 2021, open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. February 8th, closed session.
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. February 10th, open session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Shelley, seconded by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. February 10th, closed session.
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Joni. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of financials. We'll start with the vouchers.
Okay, I know that Joni, you had emailed Angie and I believe she said that she had responded, and did you get the information that you needed?
Yes, thank you.
I didn't receive any other questions on the vouchers, but I'd be glad to answer if you have any.
I'll move to approve.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul to approve the vouchers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Activity account.
I'll make a motion to approve the activity accounts.
Motion by Lori, seconded by Tina to approve the activity account. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Financial report.
Okay, just a few things, and that's on page 23 of your packet. Under state of Wisconsin, #1 transportation aid, that 18,815 is the total aid that we receive for transportation. So our transportation roughly costs us about 300 to 350,000 a year. So you know that obviously most of the majority of that is paid for by our taxpayers. Just letter C, you see the property taxes came in for this round, and again, thank you to our community for their support. Under letter D, #2, summer food service program, and this is a little bit different because our food service program in the past was based on certain factors. So with the COVID and with the federal government and the stimulus package, in talking to Angie today, that this summer food service program, which what most districts went to, the reimbursement is roughly twice of what we had in the past, even when students were totally in school. So so for example, on number 2, usual times it would have been about half of that. So again, positive news, because we put a lot of time and effort in our kitchen staff, delivery staff, when we weren't in school, providing meals to families. And then under F, miscellaneous, just again, I want to highlight donations, 500 from Benevity, from the Booster Club for the installation of the scoreboards in the gym, 3,600. Donation from Wisconsin Beef Council to our FACE program of $40. Donation Bangor Fire Auxiliary Food Pantry. And I think last month I said that it was the Bangor Fire Department, which it was in a sense, but the auxiliary is actually, I was talking to Bob Ruckheim, our fire chief, and this is actually something that was started by the spouses when they went out on fire calls to provide food for them. And so this was actually that group rather than the fire department that made that $700 donation to the food pantry. So thank you to them. And then you see 5, the donation from the St. Mary's Parish for the food pantry of $100. Number 6 is actually, we get, depending on how our workman's comp goes throughout the year, a dividend at the end of the year. So this 12,256 was a dividend from last year. Accident fund was our carrier last year because our comp claims were good. So so total revenue of $1,485,527.43. Total expenditures, $1,322,989.42. So balance on hand on February 12th was $736,567.86. So any questions on the?
Dave, I have one under miscellaneous, number 1 donation, Benevity.
Yes.
What is that?
That it's actually a group that works with a lot of very large corporations, and their employees can choose to donate to, I guess, causes that they feel. We're talking like Microsoft, Google, different ones like that. And so we also have local ones in our, some local companies in our area that are part of that. So they make donations. So it's actually run through this organization, Benevity, rather than Google, Microsoft doing that. So
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial report.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Tina to approve the financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, old business. Doesn't look like we have any. Committee reports, no committee meetings. On to board president's agenda, we have the school nurse report. Come on down, Tammy.
All right, so good news. There's been no spread of COVID-19 within the schools. In fact, there's never been spread within the school, which means our interventions are working. The CDC updated their guidance on February 12th, and basically there are 5 areas that they want everyone to address to attend in-school school safely, which we've already been doing. It's the masking, physical distancing, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, cleaning, and then the contact tracing, isolation, quarantine guidelines in collaboration with the health department. The CDC stressed that masking and the physical distancing were the 2 most important mitigation strategies. In their findings, students are not the primary source of exposure among adults in school settings. Evidence suggests that staff-to-staff transmission is more common than transmission from students to staff or staff to students or student to student. We did receive a large shipment of cloth and disposable masks from the state. Currently, we have about 15 individuals in quarantine between staff and students. Again, we had several in quarantine that were identified as close contacts on the bus. That continues to be the #1 reason why students are placed in quarantine. I did speak to the health department because I was concerned. All of the close contacts we've identified on the bus and in the classroom settings, not a single student has developed symptoms. But there was no new recommendations made, and they basically said we still have to abide by the 6-foot rule. And Dave, I believe we've already added a bus route to reduce the amount of students on an individual bus.
Yeah, and again, I just want to remind the board, what we're able to do is, even out the routes. So basically, I did a quick survey of the drivers, and I wanted to make sure that at max that we were having 2 kids per seat at max, and that is the case. The only time it's been a few of them with 3 is if they're siblings. So because I thought about the idea of possibly, do we add another route? But I don't know, given the guidelines that Tammy's talked about from the health department, if that would really make a difference. So
They were going to bring it back to the collaborative to talk about the busing issues, but we haven't received any new recommendations yet.
Yep. So
So we have about 15 staff that have had 1 or 2 doses of the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccines. Most of the staff were able to be vaccinated through Mayo or Gunderson. As more is learned about the effectiveness of the vaccine and as more people are vaccinated, current mitigation will be utilized and not changed. Community spread will continue to be monitored as the vaccine rollout continues. And the last that I checked, I know the COVID website on the county website, they changed their case data map. So I believe it's the Wisconsin state map now that shows activity level in our area. And the last I checked, we had 6 active cases in the school district, which is much lower than it has been in the past. All school employees will be identified by the state as part of the next priority group for vaccinations. Those individuals will be eligible on March 1st. And we've been working with La Crosse County and other area school districts on plans for vaccinations of all school employees. And then I know, individually in the school, we've come up with a prioritization plan that we hope the county will take into consideration. I believe Onalaska School District has been chosen as the central location of where the school employees will be vaccinated. And it will be based on the number of vaccines that the county receives. And I know there's been a slow, they haven't received what they have been expected to receive. I believe they requested 500 doses one week and they only received 100. And then the next week was even lower. They only received 50. So I know by July 1st, they want everybody to be able to have been vaccinated. Hopefully school employees will be vaccinated as soon as possible. And I think that's about it, unless you have any other things that you wanted me to talk about, Dave.
no, I just wanted to add that one point in terms of why we went with one central site. Obviously, the La Crosse County superintendents have been talking weekly, if not more than that. The biggest determinant, because all of the schools or all of the districts were certified for vaccination sites, but because of the shortage of supply, that's why ultimately, in talking to the health department, why we chose Onalaska High School, because of the central location. If we would have had the supply, sufficient supply, I think everybody would have said, yep, let's do our staff in our district. But again, to Tammy's point, if you're only receiving a fifth of what you are asking and for, it's very difficult. So, and then as Tammy pointed out, I did send a email to the staff tonight. All superintendents did in the county. And the other piece is that in the next day or two, we will receive a JOT form, they're called. I think you're all familiar with it. That where our staff, again, even though we have surveyed them, but this one will be coordinated by the county, and they will decide based on, the information that's presented of the priorities. And so, hopefully that will come out in the next day or two, and that will be distributed to staff. So
One other thing that I wanted to mention is that, so some parents have gotten really upset and frustrated with the quarantine and isolation guidelines. And I really can see their frustration, and I want to thank them for continuing to understand that we are only following the county, state, and federal government guidelines. For sure, I'm hoping that some of the guidelines will change and not be so stringent. But the good thing is we haven't seen spread in the schools with our interventions, and we had those in place early on, so we're pretty proud of that. And please remember to follow the guidelines outside of school so that we can keep our kids in the schools and our community safe. And I just wanted to bring it up that if anyone in a household, which includes your mom, your dad, if you live with grandma or grandpa, anyone who lives with you, if they're having symptoms, your child should stay home, even if they don't have symptoms. If your child has symptoms, they should stay home, including their siblings. Testing will be encouraged, but it's not required. And if a symptomatic student is tested and is negative, all of the children in the household may return to school. If a symptomatic student is not tested, they will be out of school for 10 days, and their sibling may be excluded from school up to 24 days, which could also change based on other continued exposure in the household. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Tammy. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess I was just curious on and it's just out of curiosity, when you talk about the county's vaccination supplies, those are separate from what we're seeing that the Gunderson and Mayo are not getting as well. So the county has their own for the teachers and whatever AB1
Yes,
levels.
Each entity will request their own doses, and I don't know how they figure it out, but I'm sure Gunderson receives so many doses, Mayo receives so many doses, and then the county would receive so many doses.
So our staff would be part of the county.
Yes,
Okay.
and I've also encouraged staff there's an online form that they can also fill out on the county website, so that they can opt to get their vaccine through their clinic, or, we've also put them on our list here through the school. So whatever opportunity comes up first, then they would be able to get vaccinated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you, Tammy, very much for the information. Very helpful. Okay, school board candidates. The April general election will be April 6th. We have Lisa Horseman running for at-large. That is in Pulse position. Tina Matheson is running Rockland unopposed, and incumbent Lori Horseman is running against Seth Hemmerschbach for the village of Bangor. And again, that is April 6th. All right, school board convention, January 21st through the 24th. I did sign up to attend virtually, and I did that because I knew it would be recorded, and the recordings are now available, but I have not had a chance, and they're available for a year. So as I listen to those, I will update you. I did hear from some people at CISA that Donald Driver was a keynote, and he was excellent to listen to, and with his background in childhood and road to success, very innovating. So anybody else? And Paul reported about the delegates at the last meeting. So our superintendent search update in your packet is our list of 3 Final candidates, Nikki Pope is an elementary school principal at in the Toma School District. Samuel Russ is a high school principal in Sparta. And Troy White is the high school principal in the Gale Electric Trempealeau School District. We will be having our second round of interviews on Tuesday, February 23rd. All right, iPad technology. Lise.
Thanks, Julie. I'm just going to do a kind of a brief introduction, then I'll have John present the information in your packets on page 28 and 29. He'll be speaking to the information that's on those pages. And then Rick also will talk about the survey that he did with staff. So basically, for the last number of years, we've done 3-year leases for one-on-one devices for technology. This past 3-year cycle, we actually extended it a year. So this is actually the 4th year of the use of these devices. And one of the reasons we decided last year not to go with the new 3-year leases, in talking to John and Rick, that the new ones at that point weren't markedly better. And John and Rick, if I misstate that, please correct it. So so this current year, we didn't have the lease. And so, but now at this point, they're starting to show their age. Is probably more, battery life and different things like that. So again, John and Rick will talk about that. So we built it into the budget for to renew the lease, and they would technically be bought in this fiscal year, and then we would use them for a little bit, and then going ahead, into the ensuing years. So, John, would you like to talk about on page 28? I asked John, and when I met with John and Rick and Roxanne, to talk about not only iPads, but what else was out there, what other school districts are using. And then John put together a list of pros and cons of different devices. And so, John, if you.
Hello. I guess like David said, it's time for our iPad lease. It's up. Our iPads the batteries are starting to get worn out. And it's time. So I just put a document up there about positives and negatives. The iPads, we're familiar with them, obviously. We've been using them for 3.5 years now, almost 4. All of our textbooks that we use are on them. They hold their value much better. Their cost of ownership is much better than Chromebooks. We have the current chargers that we have now will work with the iPads that we're getting a quote on. So like in regards to that, we have these chargers, like a 5-port charger in every classroom almost. That would also work with the new iPads. And teachers can see what's going on with their student iPads at any time they want. I think, and personally, the video quality is much better. I know it is. With the new Apple ID that we're going to, the whole iPad can be backed up now in comparison to not before. I mean, this year we're not able to do that. We're only able to do certain documents and stuff on iPad, but now we'll be able to back up actually the whole iPad. We can, more positives, you can run Microsoft and Google apps, obviously, and there's a lot more apps on the iPad side than on the Chromebook side, a lot more. Believe me, I've seen a ton of them. iPads are, in my opinion, they were built better than a Chromebook. The Chromebooks are getting better. There's no doubt there. I don't debate that at all, but I still, in my opinion, the iPads are built better. There's also content creation. I believe our capabilities are much better than a Chromebook. And I already talked about total cost of ownership. A negative might be there's no keyboard. And now what we're doing with that right now is we are buying external keyboards at a cost of around $40 a piece.
How many of those do we have right now, John?
Right now we have about 90 in our high school.
Portable keyboards?
Yes.
Okay.
High school, middle school, and at the elementary, I believe like 4th and 5th and 3rd grade have a set for those classrooms. The cost is a little more in the Chromebook, but I think that's because of the quality in my opinion. And the management is on the device and not the user. So that would be a negative in comparison to a Chromebook where you can manage it per device or per user. So you could do both. Positives on a Chromebook, obviously they have a keyboard, they cost a little less. They can run Microsoft and Android apps, multiple users, like I was just talking about on the device. I guess you can do that on an iPad now, but of course we're 1-to-1, so we don't do that. But if we had to, we could do that on the iPad, multiple users. And like I said, Google Admin can manage as an individual user or device, so I can do both on Google Chromebook. A negative on the Chromebooks, they definitely do not hold their value as well. Within 2 years, their value of a Chromebook goes way down. I mean, significantly. I looked at a graphic from a company that we sell our old iPads to, and they showed within 2 years, like the price of a Chromebook would be like $250 to start with. Within 2 years, it was only worth like $10. So, I mean, they really go down in value very quickly. So in comparison to an iPad, which stays up in value. So you're limited, of course, to mostly Google apps. They are coming out now more with more apps than they had before. You can do some Microsoft and Zoom on them and some Android stuff. So, but the iPads definitely have more apps. One disadvantage, of course, with the Chromebook, you can't run our Apple apps that we have now. So, and also, I didn't put this in here, but in regards to Chromebooks, the memory and the speed of them would be a little bit slower in my perspective anyway, in comparison to an iPad. So I checked around with companies, or the company that we, Gaming Generations, where we take our iPads to get fixed. And I just asked the owner of the place, I go, in regards to breakage in Chromebooks and iPads, what the difference was. And he said, there's a lot more breakage on Chromebooks. And really, he said, a Chromebook is really not worth fixing. I mean, you could spend $100 on the screen to fix it. But like I said, the value is so low on a Chromebook after a while that what school districts are doing is they just buy extra Chromebooks and then just use parts from the Chromebooks. So in regards to iPads, where you can fix the screen for, like right now, we're fixing them for around $80 to $100, depending how bad it is. And still the value of the iPad would be, $150 or $200. So around 200, depending on when you do it and that part. So in your lease. And then I had, I'm sorry, yeah, I just talked about the fixing the Chromebooks and the iPads. And then fixing an iPad, yes, I definitely think it's worth fixing them. What else did I say? I guess that's about it for advantages, disadvantages. In regards to the management part of it, we would have to, and obviously we're used to the Apple stuff. We use the Jamp, it's called Jamp software. And Google management, I use it some, but like Roxanne and Rick, they hardly use it at all. So they would have to learn that complete system. And I would have to learn some too, because I don't use it very much at all, because we're doing iPads. So so I guess that's about it. In regards to the quote that you guys got, I don't know, on the board docs here on the website, it was a quote for with keyboard cases. What did the board members, what did you get? Did you get with cases or without? Okay, there's another, also got a quote without cases, and it is extremely less, of course. So the price without cases was $205,800, and that's a total for the 3-year lease. And the annual payments would be $69,140.51. Anybody needing me to say that again? The reason I'm sorry, Dave got confused on that. I sent him 2 quotes. I just wanted to see what Apple would charge us with the keyboard cases that they sell. The keyboard cases they sell were around $100. The keyboard cases that we currently get, or we don't get keyboard cases, we just get regular cases, are $30. So we would be buying those if we decide to go with the iPad. So basically, it's $294 an iPad. And then if we would buy our cases, it would be $30 a piece. And like Dave said, we did have that in our plan for this year already. The cases, the price of the cases and the lease.
Do we know what we're getting back for the ones that have been around for 4 years?
I talked to last week or the week before, salesperson from, it's called Diamond Assets. That's who we sold our last iPads to after we sold it to the public. And he said right now, because of COVID, they're in high demand. And actually for a 4-year-old iPad, we could get up to $120 a piece for them. And that's if, of course, if they're in excellent condition. So I would guess around 80 to 120, but like I said, 120 is in perfect condition. So would definitely pay for some of the lease there.
John, we do have some Chromebooks here already. Is that correct?
Yes, we currently have 90
Okay.
Chromebooks.
And what do we use those for?
We use them for online testing, and then I
Okay.
think in like English classes, use them for some writing of papers.
And how old are they?
We have 60 of the Chromebooks were purchased in November of 2017, and the other 30 were purchased in November of 2020.
Did you have to use those for the CRVA too? Are those required for that program?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Were those required for the CRVA program too, also?
Yes,
For remote learners?
The Chromebooks is what they believe. I mean, they can use iPads too, but I think at least at the high school level, they're using Chromebooks.
John and Rick, can you talk about, the keyboard aspect? Because, and Rick, you can talk about your survey too, because Rick talked to students about keyboards and how, if we went with Chromebooks, obviously the keyboards are there, but if we went with iPads, what are the options for keyboards? Rick or John?
Well, like I said, the keyboard itself, I mean, we're using them right now. We have them in the IMC just for checkout, and as the students need them. So as far as I know, they've been working just fine, external keyboards when we use them. Obviously, Chromebooks have the keyboards on them, but they just, that's what I say. I don't know if you can say more, Rick, about that, but
Yeah, a lot of the keyboards were checked out during our virtual time for Sherry Horseman's classes. I know for her keyboarding and things. Yeah, the ones that we have the lightning connector on them, the white Logitech ones that John's talking about. I mean, they've seemed like they've held up. I don't think we've had any that have died on us in the 3 years that we've had them. So I did want to survey the staff to get their input on Chromebooks and iPads, and I'll give you the results that I formulated there. Preference, it was 56% iPad, 44% Chromebook, so it wasn't a huge split. but more for iPad, I think because they're used to them. 32% currently have textbooks on the iPad. The longest subscription that we have right now is 5 years for textbooks on the iPad, and we have everything from 1 year to 5-year licenses there. But I also asked if they could view them from a web browser. So if we were to go to a Chromebook, and that was split. There was some that didn't know, but they hadn't tried it yet, some that were app specific. But I think if we ever switch over, or if we switch over this year, our textbook purchases, then we'd have to make sure that we could obviously view them online. And I think most of them have the capability of both. And the split on the survey was 6-12. 44% of the staff teach both middle and high school, 24% high school only, and 32% middle school only on that.
So the elementary though, we stay with the iPads, right? I mean, that's a user-friendly iPads for for K through 5, correct?
For sure on that. I don't think the Chromebooks would be overly effective at the elementary level. Certainly the touch screens, that sort of stuff is more user-friendly. We do have plenty of keyboards. We have keyboards in the LMC as well for when we need those. My experience personally with Chromebooks is they just don't last. I've worked with them, and when I was in Toma, they had them. Just don't last.
When we talk about price difference, I have no idea. What are you talking difference?
Well, you're looking at, it said $294 for an iPad. And the Chromebooks are around $250, somewhere in that range. Could be a little bit more depending on the model. I try to get the, obviously a more industrial one because it's going to be used quite a bit. So there's a little bit difference in there.
There is, but when we're recouping anywhere from 80 to 120, the price really isn't all that much of a, I realize it's later. It's something that comes later, but.
Yes.
Joni, that is a good point, because again, we will, whatever you decide to do, we will sell the iPads that we have. And so what we've done in the past is use that money to apply towards the new lease. So, and John also found out that we can work with the 2 companies that he mentioned, that they can handle the sale of it. Because in the past we did it, and it's a heck of a lot of work, especially if we're doing it in April and May. But they also will prioritize, sale to the Bangor community first. And then once that is, after a certain time period, Bangor community is not interested anymore, then they could turn it and sell it on the market. So, but to your point about whatever money we make off the sale can be applied then right to the cost of the lease.
John, if we were to choose the Chromebooks, do they lease as well, or do we have to buy them outright? I don't remember our conversation on that.
You can lease. Some, it's like a half and half. Some lease, some buy. So some schools, it's a preference on their school board, so, and the technology people.
So right now, as far as the keypads for the iPad, they are in the library and students check them out if they need them for business classes or English or whatever. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Check them out at the library, yeah.
okay,
Except for elementary, the grade levels that have a set for each grade level. So.
correct. All
And-
right.
And we do have around 30 in the middle school as well that are down there.
And those will also be compatible with the new ones?
Yes, they will.
All right. Any other questions for John or Rick or Mike regarding iPads, Chromebooks, or Dave as well.
So do we need to make a recommendation as to what we do?
Yes, Joni, we'd like your thoughts on it. Our recommendation, based on all of the information that John, Rick provided, is we would recommend, our recommendation would be to go with an iPad lease for all of the reasons that were listed. And again, I think we can purchase more of the wired keyboards if we need to. So rather than, like Rick said, we only have 30, we could certainly purchase more of those if we went with the iPads.
We have 30 in the middle school. We have currently 50, at least 50 and at the in the IMC. There might even be 30 more, yeah, too. I think there is. So.
So if we don't get the cases with the keypads, which sounds like we're not looking at doing that, are we still getting new cases or are we reusing the cases that we have?
No, we would get new cases. Unless, I mean, unless them old cases fit on the new iPads, which I don't know if they do or not, I guess. Usually they do not because they change it a little bit. So, but if they're in good enough shape, clean enough, usually by the end of 3 or 4 years, they're pretty beat up. But if there's any that are in decent shape, yeah, we could reuse them if they fit the new iPads.
So we don't have a grand total in front of us for 700 iPads and 700 new cases. What we're seeing here is the 700 cases with keypads.
Correct, yes.
Do we have that figure, Dave? Of the
So if we were to buy it separately, Paul, so the lease for 700 iPads would be $205,000, and the lease would run $69,000 a year. And then if we purchased the cases separately, as you said, John, $30 per, so you're talking $21,000 for that.
thanks.
If there's no more discussion, I'll make a motion to go ahead with the iPad lease as been presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Shelley, seconded by Paul to go ahead with the 3-year lease for the iPads as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Use of facilities by outside groups. Dave?
Thanks, Julie. In your packet on pages 31, 33, 35, you will find information related to the outside group use. I did send you today, which you'll find on page 33A, revised recommendations that administration is recommending for Bangor student use that we will go through in a little bit, but just wanted to highlight, again, we are looking at this on a monthly basis. Last month, we talked about different categories that you'd find on page 31, health and safety, public safety. I won't go through all of that again. And then we did talk about use of the facilities. And so I did a survey of our Scenic Bluffs schools, and you'll find that on page 35. And you see that most are allowing groups to use it, but it's only in school groups. And most of them are their youth basketball, you have youth wrestling, but they are not allowing outside groups, such as AAU or Great Northwest to use them again. youth groups that are in their district. So that is, and then on just page 33, I also gave you information from now Norwalk, Ontario District, Brookwood, and the protocols that they use for groups. And I want to go through what we would expect if that was the case. So on page 33A, our revised recommendations would be, again, number one, no outside groups, anyone outside the district. Again, these will be discussed. We will continue to discuss it monthly. Number three, that we would want it to be only Bangor students. And then number four, one of the things we think is important is, again, there's other groups and everything that would want to do larger types of things. But at this point, again, I still think our priority is keeping our programs, our students going. So we are recommending a group maximum of 15. Again, which allows, I think, you to monitor it more closely. Number five, that we would ask that coaches, advisors would need to be trained by our maintenance personnel for cleaning and sanitizing. And that's what the other schools have done in the Scenic Bluffs. They have had their coaches and advisors trained by their maintenance, because it's not as simple as probably normal cleaning would be during non-COVID times. Obviously, we would require masks at all time, other mitigation strategies, such as not using water fountains, bring your own water, those types of things. Number eight, practices would be grade levels only. Again, that was what they emphasized. That way you're not mixing, because during the day we don't mix third graders with fifth graders, second graders with fourth graders. So not mixing grades, keep them separated by grades. Number nine, facility use is limited to one group at a time. Again, I don't think we want multiple groups using the buildings and having that cross type of exposure. And so we would say one group at a time. Number 10, again, this is from the Scenic Bluffs. They are not allowing games or tournaments to take place, even among their in-school groups. It is practices only. And obviously we would not want outside groups such as Great Northwest, AAU, et cetera, involved. 11, again, this was something that's in the Brookwood proposal. No parents or visitors are allowed during practices, coaches and players only. Again, limit numbers. Number 12, pickup and drop off times, locations be followed very specifically. Because I think, again, we want to make sure that we have one group, and then when they're done, they have time to clean and the coaches have time to do the sanitation, rather than we have another group waiting at the door to get in. So we would space it and have time in between to do those protocols that are necessary. Oh, one of the other things I forgot, in number 9, again, the facility uses one group at a time, and then to that confined area. Now, in most cases, this will probably be the gym, but we don't want students before or after practice going to other parts of the school. That just defeats all of the things that we're doing now in terms of our custodial staff cleaning areas. So we don't want any type of exposure on that. And then finally, giving us the latitude, if an outbreak does occur, then obviously administration given the discretion to shut down a group immediately if that's the case. And obviously we would use Tammy's expertise on that. So again, at the base of it is allowing our own student groups, and mainly I want to say we want, our middle school and high school have been able to practice and play, and knock on wood, it's been so far successful in terms of no outbreaks and everything. So In discussing it with the administrative team, we feel that with protocols in place and training in place, that we feel we can offer the opportunity to the elementary kids also. Rick, Mike, Josh, would you like to add anything to that before we turn it out for questions?
I think this is primarily just, your elementary Great Northwest teams that are looking for gym time to practice for the most part. In my building, if they're going to use our facility, we can close off the rest of the building. I'm really not interested in having other outside groups coming into the classrooms and entering into those spaces. But we can close off the barrier wall between the new gym space playground area and the rest of the school pretty easily. I think we just, we have some thought into the precautions and need to have coaches and parents follow those opportunities if they want to take advantage of this, of playtime kind of thing.
And I feel the same. I think that our elementary kids need the opportunity now. We've shown up here with the right strategies and things in place that we have been successful with it. And I do think that they deserve the same thing now with the same things in play. So I wholeheartedly support that as well.
I guess my confusion is if at the elementary level, there isn't anything other than AAU and Great Northwest, is there, for the elementary level kids? And didn't we specifically say no? Or did I misunderstand something?
Go ahead, Mike.
As far as, you can get into the different avenues of 4-H and Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts, and those people have used our facilities as more of the classroom areas.
Okay.
Is kind of the difference there. I think is more, people are looking for gym space time, and I think that falls under that category of kind of ratcheting, kind of whatever scaffolding the way that we open it up, I guess.
But if we're saying no Great Northwest,
Oh,
are we saying no?
No, I think what-
outside Great Northwest participants?
no. Yes.
Okay, so if Bangor kids are on a Great Northwest team,
correct.
those Bangor kids can come and use this facility to practice here.
Correct.
Okay.
Just, I think the
I
gray
think that's
area
where
on
it's
that.
confusing.
No, the gray area on some of that stuff is particularly on an AAU world where one Bangor kid might be on that team versus, kids from all over a different place. We wouldn't want that. Kids that go to our school, if they're on a basketball team in Bangor, then that works.
So another point of clarification I'm curious about is, I don't know how those leagues work. Do they truly go by grade level or do they go by age group? In other words, if you got a 12
Which
and
grade?
under,
Yeah,
can you
grade
say
level.
only,
Grade level, fourth.
they are
grade.
grade level?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know how realistic that would be to enforce, if you will, or to ask them to, if you got a split.
Well, certainly,
grade
you
level
bring
on
up
a
a good
team.
point, Paul, because one of the challenges to a small town like Bangor is sometimes the kids from a third grade kid will play on a fourth grade team, and we want to avoid that right now, and that's going to limit opportunities for some teams. But nonetheless, we feel at this time that's, we're cohorting all day long at school, and we want to kind of, we want to keep it that way. It's not like our fourth graders and our fifth graders and that it's not like they don't intermingle, but it's not like they don't ever see each other, that kind of stuff. But to play on a basketball court together, physical contact, because you're going to play the game, that's not what we're necessarily we're not doing those types of things at school with different grade levels, let's say.
Just to play devil's advocate, what if there's a sibling, it's a team together, but there's a sibling on that team? I know you want to stay by grades, but if there's a grade up or a grade down that has a sibling, would that be an exception, or is it just grade period?
I think it has to be grades period. That sibling doesn't live with the kids that the rest of the kids on the team,
Right.
so as much as I know that that's part of how Bangor's done business in the past, but right now I just don't think it helps us if we stray that way. Kind of thing.
One of the other limitations, very honestly, if you do approve this, is now basketball season will be coming to an end in the next couple of weeks. So We will have volleyball both at the middle school and high school level going. We will have football at the middle school and high school going. And, you know, because now normal times, especially like for football, we wouldn't be in the gyms, but I'm sure at this, because of what so the number of spaces or times that might be available might be more limited than usual. But again, we want to give them the opportunity to do this. So, but I think it's something that we have to be aware of, that again, because of the timing of the seasons and the seasons move around, it's going to be different also in terms of availability of the facilities.
Who
Does it-
manages the schedule? Jean? Rick?
No, Jean.
Right, okay.
Does this count then the elementary school gym, the gym here and the old high school? Are those the three facilities or is the old high school out of this?
Yeah, thank you, Lori, for bringing that up, because we did have some discussion about the old school. And I took it back to Rick and Mike and Kevin. And Rick, can you talk about the conversation that you guys had? And then Mike, also in terms of elementary use of the gym there.
Sure. So I talked to Kevin. High school volleyball starts Monday, and they will be, well, we have depending on girls basketball, obviously. But then the plan is they would be here. Middle school volleyball would be at the elementary school. And then football, high school, we're going to be outside as much as possible. Randy Tenner said he would plow off the field for us up there. And then we could let the middle school football team be in the old school. So that will be used, and we'll be getting some of that equipment out of there. And we'll have it out of the way for them. So all three buildings potentially could be busy until 5:30 or 6 with the different teams. Obviously, if the weather's better, the old school, you know, both football teams will be outside, you know, as we go along.
And Rick, I know that we had talked about the possibility of, okay, just do it at the old school, this types of group. But I just believe with everything going on that it's almost impossible, correct?
Well, I want to make sure that especially our middle school football team can be inside if needed, you know, if we get some really nasty weather. In high school, you know, as needed as well. We can do a little more film and classroom work than they can. So we're working on that. I've talked to some of the coaches a little bit about that. So we're still formulating that, and obviously the weather is going to dictate that. So it's really hard to predict at the moment.
And I did talk to Mike, you know, after we had that conversation as a group and everything. And Mike, can you address, you've said you feel comfortable allowing it in your building, correct?
Yeah, because of the nature of our building, being able to close those doors, and it just ends up being that, you know, you're not walking through the front door, you're not wandering around the main part of the school, you're walking into the gym area, and you're kind of closed off from the rest of the building. And I think that along with the coaches, and as long as the coaches are able to follow protocols and clean the way that they're instructed by our custodial staff, I think we can offer that to the kids. You know, it's going to be very limited because of the high school and middle school activities. So their times are going to be very limited, but I think, you know, I really want to keep the people out of the main part of the school, and I think we can do that.
The final step, if you do approve of this, obviously, you saw the protocols that Brookwood used, and we'd use that as a template. But again, we would want to meet administratively and make sure that that's a document that all those groups would have, so they understand. So it's, I mean, we'd post it, all of that thing, but that they would understand these are the things necessary, including getting trained by our maintenance personnel before you use it. But you know, now Brookwood had a lot of information about how to do that, so we would use it as a template, and that would be shared and distributed to the coaches. So
I think it's becoming more and more difficult to tell these people they can't use the facilities. If you saw the number of people we had in the gym for that girls cashing game the other night, I was shocked at that, but I understand the WIAA kind of intervened and trumped our local restrictions there. So I mean, again, it's going to be hard to say. You can't use it anymore when we let that many people into a ball game. That's just crazy. So.
I agree, Paul. And the other thing with our facilities, the weekends there'll be time on the weekends that'll be open as well. And I know in the past, they've been used heavily on the weekends. Besides after the practices that are done for high school and middle school.
Paul, and I do want to emphasize a point that you said that the WIA said that if you were going to host, and we didn't know this till right before, and I wish we would have got that information out to you as a board, but that if you're going to host, you must provide the 4 tickets. So yes, it definitely looked.
4 tickets to each player,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, Julie, it's 4 tickets and they can have a traveling party of 22, so they're 88 per team. And it'll be the same thing Friday and Saturday as well.
I just have a few questions. So number 5, it's by maintenance for the training. So then is there also training, like, do they have to keep record of who's there, the information? Like, are you having nurse training too? Because I think nurse training would be more important than maintenance, because like sanitary should. Yes.
We could certainly include that, Tina, and to your point, because Josh actually brought it up in our discussion, that yes, they will have to have, log that they record this stuff. So
Okay.
in terms of if we were to have an outbreak, then we can contact trace and all of that. So yes.
Okay. And then number 8, I go to, and I'm a little concerned with going grade level. I absolutely understand why we want to go grade level. And I agree with it. Typically it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th that are playing together. So we have maybe 2 girls that are playing in 3rd grade and 4 in, 4th grade, or however they're mixed. I mean, you can barely, so we're going to reserve just a whole gym for 3 girls. I mean, it's not even the whole team. So I'm wondering, I'm having a hard time with number 8, because then we already have a hard enough time getting coaches. So now you have to have a coach for each grade, which I understand, but now you're staffing, you're training more coaches. And I guess I want a better idea of who really wants these gyms. Like, if it's a group, if it's a YMCA group that's playing ball, or if it's a rec team that wants to play ball. I mean, we're not that big of a school to be able to play just by grade level. So I understand the tracing part of it, but I'm a little concerned of if we're actually doing what's being asked. I could be totally off kilter.
I get that point 100%, Tina, and I just think with all the efforts, and if it ends up being that there's 3 kids at a practice, I don't personally see that time as a big waste of time. I think it's an opportunity for those 3 kids to work in a small group on their drills and practices, because,
So so this is just could you do this? Can you split up that gym? Like, if we're worried about spacing, could you put the 3 kids in 1st grade here and the 3 kids in 2nd grade here and have one coach where they're not exposed like we would on a bus? Or no?
It's one of those, as soon as you start watering those things down, where do you really draw the line? And I agree with what you're saying too, but in terms of managing this, and like you said, I don't really know necessarily who's going to step up and ask for gym time, whether it's, what does that look like? And then, but, if the board wants to give
So
us,
maybe we go with this and see what next month brings and what people want.
Oh,
And
for
that's
sure.
fine. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying this is something I think we need to keep in mind.
if I
see
come
what the
back and say
ask
that
is.
3 kids or 3 teams came forward and said, this is what we got.
Okay, yes.
And then I bring that back to the board. Maybe we have a different decision. Maybe we're a different spot with
Okay.
vaccinations, or maybe we're a different spot with protocols. So certainly, but I do think that all the work we do at the elementary level, and we've been very successful with our protocols. I don't want something like this to creep into the school day, into the school itself, and then all of a sudden we've got bigger fish to fry on the other end of it. So yeah, I understand the mixing of grade levels and the way we work as a community. But I think we have to be ease into this, and I'd be happy to bring information back if I have any.
I think if we
next
just
meeting.
have good communication with the following meeting on this and see how this is going, then that's good.
And we will talk about it again next month, for sure.
I think the first line needs to say certain outside groups, because AAU, Park and Rec, they're not school district groups. They're, so it's to say no outside groups, that means nobody, but it should say certain. Because that's what you're allowing.
Yeah, I don't know if there's, Jack, some language that specifically delineates. I mean, you know, specifically, we talk in number 3 about it being only Bangor students. So I don't know if we do the language a little bit that, you know, just says that, you know. So do we just say Bangor groups?
You could move 3 to 1 and then just get rid of the whole first line.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So I guess, Julie, if there's not any more questions, our recommendations with those changes and then some of the things that you brought up, recommendation would be to allow this and then obviously revisit it monthly at each board meeting.
I would make that motion that we adopt the revised recommendation for facility use during COVID as amended by striking line 1, replacing it with line 3.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Tina, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is referendum presentation and dates. Usually the month before the referendum, Dave and sometimes board members go to the village and township meetings of Burns, Rockland, Village of Bangor, and Town of Bangor. Dave, anything else?
No, and that's, you know, the 3 previous referendums that we did, that has been the process. And then, yes, we do a school presentation. The one benefit to, you know, in the past when we've had the school presentation, we haven't had, you know, a really big turnout. But because we are now broadcasting via YouTube, I think that's beneficial. But I just want to know if that is, we want to stick with that. Obviously, you know, when I thought about in the past, I said, well, I can go to other different groups and all that, but obviously because of COVID, that limits what we can do. So I am just looking for direction from you. And then specifically, if you want to look at the school presentation, then also a date or dates so we get that in the calendar. So I guess the first discussion is, do you wish to do something different than we've done in the past?
I think it's been well received and we should continue with what's worked in the past.
I know the villages and townships appreciate the information, so I like those visits. I think they're important.
I agree. I think whatever we've done in the past, we should continue.
The only bad thing is, you know, when I went in November and December, I told them this was the last time they'd see me because I was retiring. So now I have to backtrack on that, and I'll apologize when I get there. So, but Tina, I appreciate that. The townships and the villages have been awesome when not just when I present on referendum every 3 years, but when I've went every year. So thank you. So I definitely do that.
So do we want to set a date for our school presentation? Our next meeting would probably be March 17th, our regular school board meeting, so we should probably get that meeting on the books for here.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if it's best to look at the closer to the April 6th date.
I think it is important. You don't want to do it too far in advance, but
Yeah.
you don't want to do it on the last day either. So we
Right.
got to find that, you want it to be fresh in people's minds. But again, you don't want anyone to be surprised by it. So we need to find something closer to the actual date, I think.
So the week of either March 30th or the week, or well, what would it be, March? Yeah, or March 23rd or 2nd that week? Week of the 27th or the 29th? Hmm? 22nd. Yeah. Week of March 22nd or the 29th?
Remember that the day isn't as important anymore as it was either. If this is going to be broadcast, it's also going to be recorded. So it's not like, we're limited to Wednesday nights or something. It's nice for consistency's sake, but the broadcasting gives us more flexibility that way too.
Just throwing it out there that whether it means anything or not, but that first weekend in March, the 3rd, well, the 4th is Easter. So the 31st, would we rather do it that week before to give more time? If there is any traveling that last week before the election, just throwing that out there.
That's true. Good point.
So the week of March 22nd. Is that what you're saying, Shel? Okay.
And I don't think the day matters. I think it's just a matter of whatever we can figure out, because it's on YouTube, so you can watch it at your leisure.
So our regular meeting is what, the 17th?
Yes,
So how about the 24th?
I would agree. That was my.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too.
You want a motion, Dave?
Yes.
I would
yes.
move that we hold a
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I can't come that day. but
Okay,
I
I'm
don't know
sorry.
when I need to be
Okay.
there. That's all right. You go ahead.
Is there a day around that you can?
Any other day that week, just not that day.
20.
23rd?
Yep.
I'm good with that. I'll move that we hold the community hearing for the referendum on Tuesday, the 23rd.
I'll second.
Do we have a time?
I think 6:30
30.
seems to be well.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Shelley to hold the community hearing referendum on March 23rd, 2021 at 6:30. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Dave, anything else about the village and township visits?
Yeah, when I find out when they are and because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head exactly when they usually do them at the beginning of the month. But I think the town of Bangor now goes like the 3rd Monday of the month. So anyway, when I make those calls, I will definitely let you know the dates and the time. So if you want to, I'd love for board members to be able to attend those. Obviously, we'd have to be careful that it's not a quorum. I mean, if it is a quorum, we'd have to post it, but if any of you would want to attend, but I'll put those dates out there. And, but I know, like, for example, both Village of Rockland, Village of Bangor, they start theirs at 6 o'clock. And then Burns and Town of Bangor both believe are at 7:30. So I will get you those dates.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Correspondence? None? Okay. CISA 4 report. That would be me. We met on Wednesday, February 3rd. Roger Fruit he's an instructional service director at CISA. He gave us a presentation on the new principal coaching support network that he has developed and has been very successful. And we talked about the WASBA convention a little bit. And we approved a personnel contract for a part-time occupational therapist, February 8th through June 30th. Someone is finishing something, it's something unique, but we found someone to fill that temporarily, and that was it. We'll meet again on Wednesday, March 3rd. Any questions? Okay, on to administrative reports. Mr. Chaplin.
Thanks, Julie. First thing on page 39, reluctantly asking to accept a retirement of Kari Bjornstead as our speech and language pathologist, who has served the district for the last 33 years. If you say no, it won't break my heart, but I think she would probably not be happy about it.
I'd like to say no, but I will move to approve the retirement of Kari Bjornstead.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the retirement of speech and language pathologist Kari Bjornstead. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Next thing on page 37 would be the Child Development Day. Again, like last month, we're not holding the day, which technically it would be tomorrow if we were in a typical year. But we are just doing the paperwork piece and then offering additional observations or screenings if we flag any of the information or if parents are requesting. And I think those have been trickling into Jean since she sent them out a few weeks ago. The ACT and the ACT prep, again, the ACT is going to be held on March 9th. No snow day that day. So, and again, the teachers have been doing the prep within the classrooms, their classes this year. So we're not having the half days like we have in the past. And I'll talk a little bit more about the assessments here in a second. The federal funding conference, like most conferences this past year, is going virtual. So that will be next week, Monday and part of Tuesday. And we'll probably have some COVID updates along with their typical title and idea funding subject areas. And then the last thing is the thing that everyone loves is the state testing. There was a update today from DPI that DPI is requesting some federal waivers for the access for ELL testing, as well as the 95% participation rate that is effective. Those requests are for the federal requirements. So the federal requirement testing would be the ELL testing as well as the forward exam. And so the 95% participation rate would apply for those two assessments. And those waivers would be just for the participation rate. Those waivers would not affect the state assessments, which are the ACT and the ACT Aspire, because those are Wisconsin mandated assessments. And those don't have a participation rate requirements. And the state, to my knowledge, is not waiving those testing requirements or requesting waivers for the assessments overall. So that would be the update for the state assessments. I did talk with a staff person from Ron Kine's office. They were not aware of the state testing things, and that staffer did talk to WEAC as well as was going to talk to the education committee as well to bring that up. So I think it's all been in kind of the background because obviously state testing isn't something that is flashy in the news, so. Any questions on the testing? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaplin. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Julie. Just an update on the elementary school. Testing completed as far as we got some MAPS testing done, F&P done, as well as some AIM web stuff. Tomorrow, we're taking a look at those types of data points and working together as a PLC time to pull some direction moving forward. I'm excited about that opportunity for them to kind of see where our kids are at and start some discussion about how to move forward. Just to kind of reiterate what Tammy had said earlier, we did have a couple Fridays ago, we had a pretty heavy day of quarantine kids. And just wanted to reiterate that, you know, most of that, the vast majority of that came from the bus situation. What we have going on at school is really not causing quarantines. And I commend Tammy for her efforts. You know, she is putting some families that, you know, it's hard. It's a hard discussion to have with families when they got to quarantine their kids for a long period of time. And thank you to the families for being understanding through this very, very difficult time. But we have Read Across America Week coming up March 1st through the 5th. Excited about that. Dave and Rick and myself recorded ourselves reading stories today to the kids. So we'll get those out. If you've ever read a Dr. Seuss book, it can kind of wrap your tongue up in a little bit. That was kind of fun today. We're looking forward to that. And our PTO is, or currently PTO is doing, they have their book fair open during conferences like they always do. It's virtual. So please check our PTO Facebook page to get the link if you want to order some books for kids. So if y'all need help, they, you know, the PTO, on a shout out to them. Great group of people working hard, want to do good things. And this pandemic has been really hard on their traditional fundraising events, but they do really support our students and our classroom teachers. So I know it's hard and they want to do more, but they're working on those things. So if anybody can support those causes, that would be great. Number two, Joyce Schaller, I asked the board to accept her retirement letter. It is on page 40, I believe. You know, my kids walked in the door and met Joyce, probably the first face that they do here in Bangor when they started school, and as have many of our students, or our children, I should say. And what do you say to a person that's given 30 years of their life to our community? She knows everybody. She knows where everybody lives. She knows it's pretty, she's just an encyclopedia of Bangor school. And how do you replace that? I don't think you really do, but she is graciously offered to, you know, be available to us as we need to help her replacement move forward. So she did ask for her contract to run through the end of summer school so she can help us out there.
I'll make a motion to approve the retirement of Joyce Schaller.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Shelley to approve the retirement of Joyce Schaller. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I asked the board to please accept the request by email, which is on page 42 from Brenda Bratz, one of our paras, who had surgery today, which will be out through March 5th. We do have that position covered for all her duties. She's a unique position to fill because she takes care of a lot of the busing between here and West Salem. So we do have that all set.
I move to approve the medical leave request from Brenda Bratz.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve the, I'm sorry, medical, is it a medical leave, correct? Oh, I'm sorry. For Brenda Bratz, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'm asking the board to approve a part-time temporary interventionist position. This comes up from the ESSER two funds, and part of those funds that we're receiving are designed to help, let's say, raise the achievement on students based on COVID-related deficits, let's say. And I just feel like we could take this opportunity to provide some supports at our primary levels, whether it's learning numbers, whether it's learning letters with sounds, that kind of thing. And if we can do a couple days a week, from 8 to noonish type thing, I've already worked out a schedule that would work for our primary students and the times that work for those teachers to be a little bit flexible with some of these kids that are not receiving, let's say, title work and those types of things, but are concerned with a specific grade level achievement. Might be something as simple as counting to 100, or it might be as simple as, it's for everybody, but it's difficult for this particular child because of maybe the learning conditions that they were during the virtual side of it. So you can see some of the facts, I guess, for questions below. We posted it internally on the 15th. Certainly, if it's not approved, we just take that down. A person would be working with primary grades, foundational numeracy and literacy. I think 2 days a week, because I do get concerned about the amount of pullouts with title kids, and don't want anybody to be missing the tier 1 instruction. Position would begin March 2nd through the end of the year. And then you can see the costs, which are all ESSER 2 funds. And those ESSER 2 funds do run, the sunset on that is September 30th, 2023. I do have a person interested in the position right now, Michelle Lorenz, who is our part-time 4K teacher. She works Monday, Wednesday, and half day Friday. So it would fit into her schedule. I talked to her about it a little bit just to gauge her interest, to see if that's something we could do. She is very familiar with the primary levels, so just an idea.
So it's posted February 15th to, what did you say?
To the school district, everybody.
No, but I mean, February 15th
The
to what?
25th.
Okay, all right.
You want approval of the position, not the person at this point.
Pardon me?
You want approval for the position, not
Yeah.
the person at this point.
Correct.
Right.
But you can also see that some of the timelines don't fall with the board meeting, I guess, so. You know, it depends on who throws their hat in the ring and right now, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the part-time temporary interventionist position.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Tina to approve the part-time temporary interventionalist. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, Mr. Mullenberg.
Thank you, Julie.
Rick, can I just interrupt for
Sure.
a second? On page 8 of your agenda, I didn't catch this until later. The medical leave, I've got that twice, so we don't have to act on
Oh,
it twice.
okay.
So it's corrected on board docs, so, but the printed one, so
Yeah, I was going to point that out. We only have one. Thank you, Dave.
thanks, Rick.
So first of all, I'm asking for the approval for JV coach for volleyball, Tammy Brownell, and C team coach, Maddie Gilster. Tammy would be taking the place of Holly Danes, who you accepted her resignation last month. And Maddie was previously approved as a volunteer assistant. And then we're also asking for approval of volunteer assistant Jessica Jacobson, who has done that in the past.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Tina, seconded by Shelley to approve high school volleyball coach positions JV, Tammy Brownell, C team, Maddie Gilster, and volunteer Jessica Jacobson. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Next, the approval of the middle high school part-time cook increase of hours. Dave, I'm going to let you speak just a little bit to that. I know it's
Yeah, Christiella, who's our part-time cook in the middle school, high school, obviously with all the demands of COVID and all of the additional things that in terms of preparation, we are asking for a half an hour increase, so it'd be 5.5 hours per day. Cost for that from now until the end of the year would be $575 in salaries / benefits. And again, we would take that out of ESSER 2 funds. So we're asking for approval for that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lori to approve the middle high school part-time cook increase of 30 minutes per day. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, asking for approval for medical leave for middle high school custodian Ray Thompson, who's having surgery on his knee next week.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve medical leave for middle high school custodian Ray Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, I'm asking for approval for the resignation of middle school track coach Matt Regan. And we do have somebody else that is interested if, when the time comes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve the resignation of Matt Regan from middle school track. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Learning update. I've been really pleased with the, we only have 4 kids in quarantine right now. And we've been down as low as 2 this week. So the protocols and the things that the staff are doing been going well. Been talking to staff more about learning and things, and we have in our professional development day tomorrow, a discussion on map testing and levels of kids and things in summer school. So it's been nice to have everybody here consistently for quite a period of time. And I look forward to the rest of the year going the same way. And it's fun to be back in classrooms and hallways with students again, for sure. On the upcoming events, you'll see that on April 17th, we have prom scheduled. And I want to talk about that just a little bit. So I talked to my colleagues in the area in the Scenic Bluffs, and there's a couple schools that aren't decided yet, but there's 3 others that are moving forward for sure. And it won't, as of now, won't look the same. Obviously, we're playing it by ear. If there's an outbreak or something, that would change it. But one of the things, I talked to the advisors, and I talked to a group of juniors and seniors last week for some input. And the thought is a couple schools are having a dinner because you might not be able to have a dance. So you'd have a more of a formal dinner. So we discussed that. They like that idea. And then if you can have a dance along with it, that you would. We do have the DJ booked for that day, so we would have music. They want to do juniors and seniors together. They asked for one theme. We would have separate picture areas for class of 21 and 22. Some of the logistics, the advisors are still working on. We talked about using the gym so we could space them out. It's roughly 100 students. If you go with both, the schools I talked to are not allowing anybody else from the outside in. And they're not, the ones I talked to are not allowing freshmen or sophomores. So in order to pull it off so you can have it. Thoughts were to move it up, be like 4 to 7 or 4 to 8 with a dance. And then the girls brought up a really good point. They said, could we do the grand march right away? And we talked about doing it on the football field so we could be spaced out without masks. And they said, could we do it right away so that our makeup doesn't get smeared? And I hadn't thought of that, but so we'd like to, if the weather is nice, then do it out there so parents could come and take pictures and things. And if not, we would live stream it, obviously, in here. So that's kind of some of the thoughts. They understand that everything is, COVID related, depends on what, but we've been going in the right direction. And if we can continue like this, it's our students, we can space them out and do those things. So they were excited to be able to have the opportunity. So I'm really hopeful for them that we are able to do this as well.
Rick, if we did this, it would just be our students, so they couldn't bring a date from another school or anything like that?
Correct. That
Okay.
was, I know there was some questions on that from a couple kids, and I understand that. So I got back to all my colleagues and they said they're doing the same thing. But I mean, if we're not allowing them in for other things, I guess, but you know, that can change too. I mean, if we're down to 0 and people are vaccinated, you know, I mean, it'd be nice if we could, but as of now, I would say no. But that's April, so.
Any questions for Mr. Mullenberg?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lane,
Thank you, Julie. First is approve open enrollment alternative apps. We have a 5th grade student from Sparta that wishes to attend, so we're asking for approval on that. And then a 9th grade student that wishes to attend the virtual school in McFarland. And so we are asking for approval of those 2 open enrollment exception apps.
I'll make a motion to approve the open enrollment exception apps.
Second,
motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni to approve the open enrollment alternative applications. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. The next is, I wanted to review our ESSER funds. And again, ESSER stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief. Again, that has been done through the first 2 rounds of stimulus money. So in your packet on page 46 was the original email from DPI. And on page 47, that's the one I'd like to draw your attention to. That is, I want to specifically say what we're doing and give a little more clarification on what it is. So as you all know, it's federal stimulus monies, but it will be administered through DPI. So we will have to do all the reporting. They're setting up the criteria for that. It is one-time funding. So this is not something that we're going to every year. I do want to emphasize one-time funding versus continued operational funding. The first round was ESSER 1, and that was 108,000 we received. And the second one, ESSER 2, is 434,000. And that is a window of spent between now, or actually you can go back to the beginning of the year and use the cost, but it must be spent by September of 2023. ESSER uses, you can see the different bullet points. Again, that there's flexibility in it. So for our ESSER 1 funds, Angie and I spent time and looked at the Cooley Region Virtual Academy. We had 50 students in the Cooley Region Virtual Academy this year, sorry. And so I definitely want to let you know that the surveys that we've done, they will be substantially less next year. I really think it will be just a small number that's want a virtual education. So I know that Rick and Mike and Melanie and Joyce have reached out to families. So for sure, a lot less next year. So, but we are using the ESSER 1 funds for that. And I do want to say that, you know, I'm thankful to La Crosse School District for putting the framework together. And then there was a tremendous amount of work put together by Holman, Onalaska, West Salem, and then Rick and Mike in our in terms of the Cooley Region Virtual Academy. So one of the reasons I am very thankful for this is if we would have lost 50 students because either they thought that virtual instruction was what was right for them, but mostly because of COVID, if they would have open enrolled, we would have lost about $400,000. So again, thank you for the La Crosse School District for starting that conversation, and actually the West Salem District. It was actually their former superintendents who started that conversation. ESSER 2 uses on that page, as Mike alluded to, the main points so far that we have received from the DPI is it addresses learning loss among students, including costs to administer assessments. So going forward, there will be more of looking at that in terms of learning loss, especially as Mike said, among our younger students. School facility repairs and improvements to risk virus transmission. One of the big thing is with air movement. And in fact, I share this with you, one of our school districts in our Scenic Bluffs, who is getting substantially more than we are because it's based on your title funding. They are actually putting in air conditioning in one of their buildings that does not have air conditioning. I just assumed everybody does, but that is an allowable use of ESSER funds. These ESSER funds are very, very flexible. And so what we actually have is a DPI sheet that as a conference, we are putting ideas in and getting not immediate feedback, but feedback, yeah, that is allowable. No, it's not, but it's very, very open and flexible. And then the other kind of catch-all, it says other activities that are necessary to maintain the operation and continuity of services in local education agencies and continuing to employ existing staff. So that's kind of a pretty wide umbrella. And so this year, these are the things that will come out of ESSER 2, and this is not a complete list by any means. And again, remember it's 434,000 that can be spent by September 2023. So thank you for approving full-time nurse, full-time elementary guidance counselor. I don't have it on this list, but sub-nursing has been very beneficial for us, and we've and especially for Tammy, obviously COVID has been just a time consuming for her. We're asking for your approval tonight of the substitute, pre-K-12 long-term substitute. Obviously plexiglass, PPE. Thank you for the additional bus route. Even though there have been quarantining because of the bus route, I think it would have been worse if we would have not added another bus route. Additional transportation for delivery of meals, especially during the virtual instruction. Obviously, we've had additional custodial hours due to COVID, and then professional development. Specifically, a lot of that help happened over the summer because of the virtual learning platform. So that's not, as I said, a complete list, and but it's obviously the things that we have looked at so far. I would say, obviously, at the end of the school year, we'll have a number and a more exhaustive list, but it'll be up to you as a school board, up to the administration, the new superintendent, and your business manager to develop a budget for 21-22 and 22-23 based on the ESSER funds. That is something that in terms of budget, which you will be looking at in the coming couple years to use those funds. There is also talk of a possible third round of stimulus money, but we will see on that, and supposedly that's supposed to be even larger, but there hasn't been a lot of information as of yet. So questions on the ESSER funds? Thank you. Next on the list is the long-term substitute. I do want, before I ask for approval of Faith Sursland, I want Mike and Rick have put together a schedule for this position. And because I know the question is what will we use her for if we are not in need of a sub that day? And so I wanted to make sure that that time was going to be used to the best, not only for her, but obviously for our both schools. So Rick and Mike, would you talk to that, please?
Sure. Well, we haven't had a day where we haven't needed a sub yet. So there's a lot of hours that need to be covered, but not necessarily full days. So for instance, on like next Monday, she'll be covering for a personal day. And then there's an hour where that person didn't have a class where she's going to be with another teacher she'll be covering for a surgery. So she can, it's been nice. I've been able to have her go into classes ahead of time where she will be subbing for a period of time to kind of learn their protocols and patterns. So she's been busy up here for sure. I know Mike, you have plenty there too.
Yeah, about the same. Rick and I worked out a schedule for her to spend the first day in the elementary school, kind of getting to learn the ropes, getting to meet the teachers, getting to see what protocols are, what disciplinary type options there are. And then the next day she came up to the high school, spent the day here. But like Rick said, she hasn't had a full day where she hasn't been needed, but we both have, I know, I worked with the teachers and again, focusing on the primary kids. I have a schedule that runs her through if she does have a full day, I have a schedule down to the minute, whatever you want to call it, for kindergarten through third grade where she is. And the teachers wanted it to be, because it's very inconsistent in terms of the days when she will be available, the time of day she'll be available. Joyce is giving out an email saying, we're at this time in the morning, we know that Faith will be here for this period of time. And then she'll pop in, and the teachers know that and wanted that the way that, you know, if she's slated at this time in your room, they can ship off a student to work with her on mostly reading. It's going to be, well, it's during their reading time. So she's going to read with kids. And, you know, we missed so much of that this year with, you know, last year we had, you know, reading to the pets and just different people coming in. Lots of high school kids come in and read with our kids, and we just don't have any of that this year. It's heartbreaking. But she is at both schools, and I don't want to speak for Rick, but at both schools, she has every hour of her day is covered and she has that schedule and she just follows that. So.
And we have a shared document between Joyce, Melanie, Mike, and I to keep track of that Faith also has, to just, some days she's here half the day and at the elementary half the day or vice versa. Sometimes that's an hour here, the rest of the day there, depending on needs of our staffing. So far she's done a nice job.
Thanks, Rick and Mike. So we are recommending the hire for the pre-K-12 long-term substitute Faith Sursland. Her materials are on pages 48, 49, and 50. She is a recent graduate of UWL, major early childhood, middle school education. We posted it to WeCan on January 25th, and I enclosed on February 5th. We had a grand total of 2 applicants, and with Faith being the one that was chosen. Again, reminder that this will be paid out of ESSER 2 funds.
I move to approve Faith Sursland as the long-term temporary sub.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul to approve Faith Sursland as the pre-K through 12 long-term sub. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Celebrations.
Well, I want to thank Mike for inviting me up for Read Across America. I got to read Cat in a Hat And as Mike said, it was a real tongue twister, but, it's great because Ashley Doroff, our LMC director, will be able to edit any mistakes or anything. So, but it was really cool, really cool. So neat experience. So thanks.
I'd like to thank Mike for the same thing. I read one fish, two fish. So definitely a tongue twister.
Always good to celebrate Dr. Seuss.
I got a celebration, just Joyce Schaller. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a good team. I'm gonna miss her immensely. She does a lot for our families. And I want to congratulate her on her career. It's her fingerprints are all over our school and our district. You know, anything from collecting money at the football games, just, you know, to keeping track of the incoming students and 4Kers. And she knows every kid that's born in this district from the moment they come out of the hospital, I swear. But I just really appreciate everything she does for me. I appreciate everything she does for our community. And I will miss working with her immensely.
I'd like to celebrate Kari Bjornstead and her 33 years here in the district. There are a lot of children and now adults that are able to enunciate words because of her. So, and all the work that other work that she does with students as well. So very, very lucky to have her the last 33 years in the district, and along with Joyce will be very difficult to replace.
One thing that's really special about Kari is just the pride that she takes in growing her students. And she comes and goes, you know, and she's got kids coming all the time and everything else. Just the pride that and the concern that she has for kids that don't make the growth that maybe she wants them to, or the weight that she carries in I guess hoping, hope's not really a great strategy, but just wanting what's best for those kids. You talk to her about her craft, and it's special. I appreciate everything that she has done for our school, and if she wants to stick around for another year or two, that'd be great.
I have a couple. I want to thank our staff for the teacher conferences and doing those virtually. I think that's really hard sometimes, but they make the effort. It wasn't just here's a report card. So I think just having that interaction with the teachers, because we don't get to see them like we used to, or as much as we did. So I like that. And then I think celebrating our coaches and all of our athletes and our parents who have stuck through this hard time. I've been very impressed with what they've been doing, and from them speaking out to the public meetings and for following procedures and doing what they need to do. So a big shout out to them. Good luck with your season if it's still continuing at this point, but it turned out good, and I'm very excited for them.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. All right, moving on, removal of items from the consent agenda. Consent agenda, none tonight. So I ask that we adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, para 1, para C, para E, and para F.
So moved.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina. We'll start with roll call vote, starting with Tina.
Aye.
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 We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you. Okay, we are back in open session. No announcements, no actions. I look for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.